guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today is the 24th, I think, 26th. I missed a couple days. Yesterday was a really big day for us. Today is the 26th of January, 2020.
I do have another little segment. We've been going for 2 hours now. I kind of wanted just to give you, since this week we didn't talk about Davos, and it's obviously where 115 billionaires from around the world get together to try to control you and I, and they bring in this child, Greta Thunberg, and Britt Boz has shared me a link from the Rebel, which kind of shows the very origins. If you know where Greta comes from, then you can totally ignore her. And she was a pawn and a setup. So I don't know if we want to do a quick 15-minute segment separately, or if we just want to keep going and break it. I know Mom has a hard time with the videos over 2 hours.
I have no idea. How long is the segment?
I don't know.
Well, we're not quite at 2 hours yet.
Okay, all right.
We're almost
Greta Inc. All right, so the Rebel Media sent a journalist over to Sweden to expose the birthplace of Greta. And I'm just going to give you the punchline. There is a guy who leads Extinction Rebellion, who sent out a mass email and said, we need a fresh young face. And then you got Greta Thunberg sitting on a sidewalk, and within like minutes of her school protest, this guy walks by, says, oh, I think this girl is doing these great things. And then suddenly she's written up about within minutes of her little school protests. And the guy sending out the email said, my daughter did a school walkout. I think that Greta should do a school walkout. So it's all been planned. And what he really was asked for, who's paying for the security? She has security all around her. She says that she doesn't take money from anybody. She says she runs the Twitter. She says she runs the Facebook. She is the head of Extinction Rebellion. The people who really did a bad job with the whole red paint thing.
So maybe when she says she doesn't take money from anybody, it's almost like how a nonprofit runs.
Sure it is.
Like, so she can say, I'm not personally taking this money, but in order for me to be part of this nonprofit or whatever it is, I have to have security.
Yeah, and her dad says, you know, before she didn't eat, she was really recluse, and this is really good for her, and this is making her happy. Well, she's famous. She was depressed. Sweden is a depressing place to live. It really is. And so getting attention and getting accolades and everybody fawning over you is going to bring pretty much everybody out of depression for a while. But it'll send her back in later when they realize she's so angry. No one is listening to me.
I think what you're going to see here is almost like one of those childhood star stories.
Exactly.
Where, you know, 20 years from now, you're going to hear the real story from her, how she was used.
She's hijacking the news cycle through hashtags, viral moments.
Taking on climate change head on, pulling no punches. Her passions.
She. You guys, it's an ink. It's an incorporation.
Right.
She's the face. So you might as well say Extinction Rebellion is doing this. Extinction Rebellion is doing this. You know,
Beaches have drawn attention all over the world.
People are concerned that the premise of your school strike was never actually the innocent thing that it was. Did Reinshog accidentally run into you, or was it orchestrated by your parents well beforehand? I'm allowed to do this. Where are we? Hong Kong? China? No, this is Sweden. Sweden. Why are people who are critical of Greta not allowed to be anywhere near the action? Hey, what are you doing? Don't touch me. You don't want to tell the world who's paying you? Nobody has bothered to dig deep into the rise of her messiahhood until now. If someone starts to pull that one thread, then it will all come collapsing down.
Wow.
we're not gonna play it all, but I have some minutes.
I want to watch it all.
I'm asking questions.
Yes.
I want to ask Greta some questions.
Yes.
Don't touch me. What are you doing? You apologize for hitting me?
Continue.
Yes.
Bullshit.
You punched me in the gut 3 times. Your hands on me wasn't a part of this. You didn't need to be a part of this. You could have left me alone. Turned out fine, didn't it? Alike was coordinated, it was orchestrated and executed nearly flawlessly. Nobody has bothered to dig deep into the rise of her messiahhood until now. I've just landed in Stockholm, Sweden to do just that, to expose the lies that Greta's handlers have built her movement on. Chinks in Greta's armor only began to appear after she had bewitched the world, not before. Greta's sadistic side was exposed when she told her raging supporters that the movement needed to put their opponents against a wall.
World leaders are still trying to run away from their responsibilities. we have to make sure that they cannot do that. We will make sure that we put them against the wall.
Many started to compare her to a modern-day Mao, firing squads and all. But that's not her only Maoist trait. This has been unreported so far, but Rebel News has learned that while Greta was on her intercontinental field trip, Greta had elite, low-profile security that would train kids to act as hidden security to maintain her innocent image. Just like Mao's Red Guard, Greta had a Green Guard. It's not just the authoritarian side of Greta that nobody sees, it's the hypocritic side as well. Remember Greta's
keep more
Tesla
kids around
filled to
her.
the windows with plastic
Gotta go with a
utensils,
kid
grocery
entourage.
bags, water bottles, and imported goods? Well, Greta doesn't want you to see that. She doesn't want you to ask
Plastic
any other
water
questions
bottles.
about her questionable rise to fame. Unfortunately for her and for the people behind her, that is exactly why I came to Sweden. To ask questions that the mainstream media won't.
He asked.
Specifically, I want to ask Greta about the
I'm going to show it all, but he keeps asking them. If Greta insists on using electric cars, why does all of her security use gasoline cars? He asked the security guards. They're like,
she's allegedly striking from. The world is under the impression that Greta was a regular student who walked out of class on a Friday. What we have learned is that Greta's education regime isn't really what most people assume it is. Greta, whose childhood has been characterized by severe eating, speaking, and socializing disorders, was actually sent to a school for kids with special needs. This school, Kringla Skula it's called here, doesn't actually have attendance requirements like a regular school does. When the pupils are not feeling well or are sick or are having an episode, well, they're not required to come to class at all. Rather, the parents can keep them at home or take them on an excursion as long as they bring their textbooks. If that is the case for Greta, if she doesn't really have to be in the classroom, she isn't really on a school strike, is she? Her whole viral movement is based on a lie. Luckily, tomorrow is one of Greta's trademark school strikes. I'm going to go there and ask her questions right to her face.
Of their uprising, so she's very courageous. If she's willing to stare down Nicolas Maduro, I think that she can stare down the political correctness in Stockholm, but I'm not completely kidding. We've seen pictures of Greta Thunberg and her mom and dad wearing Antifa clothing. Now that could just be, them acting butch, or maybe they really are backed up by those violent street gangs of the left that are pretty active in Europe. So be careful. Annika's got a good sense of things. She survived Maduro's stuff. She can survive anything Greta has. But I think the number one job for you, Kian, is to ask the questions that the mainstream media won't, and to accept the answers wherever the facts may lead. Is Greta really on a school strike, or is that just some fake backstory? Is her entourage a big corporate PR agency, or is she really living the cream? And finally, if you can find out more about her origins as a global superstar, especially this Ingmar Rentzog, I think those are three big questions that the entirety of the media party has never asked. So it's a big job, but I think you're up for it.
Alleged school walkouts on August 20th, 2018. It is the exact location where Ingmar Rentzog coincidentally, or at least we're supposed to believe, he just happened to walk by Greta Thunberg on the first few minutes of her very first school strike. Ingmar Rentzog is a financial investor and public relations specialist who just dropped off his son some few kilometers away for kindergarten on his way to work. Now, this location is nowhere near the most likely route of travel, and it's kind of hard to believe that he accidentally stepped off of the metro, walked a few kilometers to get here, and then went back to the metro and then went to work. And it was all a coincidence. It was all a happenstance. That's what they want us to believe. I don't buy it. It was right here at this very spot where Greta Inc. was originally founded. It is right here where the entire saga began, the saga to kickstart a global leftist icon. And we're supposed to believe that it was all a coincidence. It was all an accident. Now, on the day, August 20th, when Greta was found by Ingmar Rentzog, a friendship and business partnership was formed. Very shortly after, Greta was added to an advisory role on Ingmar Rentzog's company, the Facebook for Environmentalists, We Don't Have Time. Ingmar Rentzog used Greta's image to promote his company and make a boatload of cash. Now, Greta says adamantly that she didn't profit from that, but Ingmar, well, he sure did. Now, everybody wants to know what the motivation is behind the people at Greta Inc. and the people pulling the strings. Well, Greta Thunberg's motivation and that of her family was admitted on BBC Radio. Greta Thunberg's father went on BBC and said that her activism is a Xanax of sorts to fix her depression, her selective mutism.
So we could watch
and
this
her,
whole
I
thing.
guess that's
I mean,
the price
No,
to pay.
well, I
for
can
Greta
skip some.
Thunberg's family.
Like you
So
can.
when I-
No, you want to watch it all. I'm just saying we'd be here for
you
another
can.
half hour.
No, you totally can, and you don't need to hear him say it. He just says it fixed
Yeah,
my
yeah.
daughters.
11, I became ill. I fell into depression. I stopped talking and I stopped eating. In 2 months, I lost about 10 kilos of weight. Later on, I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, OCD, and selective mutism.
Now, it's obvious that Greta Thunberg is going to have her selection of whatever Ivy League university she wants to go to, and she'll be putting Greta up on a pedestal to spark this movement so that they can make the bucks.
Would you be able to tell me your Greta Thunberg security? Who's paying you? No, I don't want to.
So he does.
But people do this kind of
is a
thing all
good-
the time,
a
these public
journalist, yeah.
stunts. It happens all the time. What is the more insidious side of this?
Yeah, I would say that, sure, this is a cynical PR plot on the face of it, but what's behind it is interesting and, in my mind, a little bit scary. Because we know for a fact that the person who inspired, or rather told Greta to start this school strike, is the founder of Extinction Rebellion here in Sweden. This is a guy that has very, very clear political policies. So he has a strategy. We know that he planned this strategy when he sent out a mass email saying that, oh, we need a youthful face to sort of boost the idea, these methods that we're working on, because no one listens to a guy in a suit, so we need a cute young face to promote this political environmentalist agenda. He then reaches out to Greta and tells her that, oh, I had my daughter do this school strike a year ago and that worked really well. Why don't you do this? And she does.
And he said, if I remember correctly, he said his daughter was inspired, or it was his daughter who was inspired by Parkland students. And Greta has said that she was also inspired by Parkland students. So you can see the line sort of drawing between these two. And also on the file of Extinction Rebellion, Greta has said she's giving money to them too.
Yeah, and she went, a lot of times people will, they will plead, the team behind Greta will just plead ignorance and be like, oh, a lot of people like to associate with her, but she has no opinion either way. In this case, this came directly from her own Twitter account, which they claim she runs on her own, where she did this musical collaboration. She was wearing an Antifa shirt at the time. I think a lot of people have seen this photo because members of her family also wore these Antifa shirts, and it was because of this musical collaboration she was doing with a musical group that had to do with environmental issues. And I think the issue of privilege is one that isn't discussed enough when it comes to Greta. As we know from pictures taken inside her house, they have furniture that, you know, someone like me could only dream of owning. And she is extremely, her family is extremely well off, and she does not know true hardship, even with her disabilities. If you claim an adult stage, if you're saying that, okay, I'm going to speak on the world stage about these very, very serious issues, you have to be able to not have it be a monologue, but a dialogue. And I think that
So the rest of the show talks about where she grew up, how it was, you know, kind of a wealthy neighborhood, talks about the school walkout, and they were always off on Friday anyways. And he gets into a lot of clashes with the security. He can't talk to Greta. She's surrounded by kids. It's a small little, and I just kind of show you where he tries to get in with her.
Did you have it? Don't touch me.
No, don't touch.
It's just a little group of kids just hanging out.
All we wanted to know is if...
And so this is Greta Incorporated. And imagine, hey, you're going to go on this school strike, but you know what? It's all staged. We're going to take care of you. You're only going to have to sit there for a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, she obviously has some mental illnesses, but at the same time, they're using this face. I mean, she's 16, but she looks 13 or 12, and it's a very, talk about baby face, that they're wandering around a doll. And her parents kind of brainwashed her and they kind of groomed her. And they're proud of her because their creation, it's like, Igor, at Frankenstein, it's working.
Yeah.
So they're going to keep making it work. But she has these missteps where you can't always control your Frankenstein, where she says, well, let's put him up against the wall. Well, her parents obviously talked about Chairman Mao and the communist revolutions where you put people up, that's a firing squad.
Right.
Her parents are like, let's put them up against the wall. I know what kids do when you get around and you hear something and I didn't mean that.
Are you sure it wasn't okay? Because there's a difference between the phrase "put them against the wall" and having somebody be backed up against a wall.
No. That's a communist. That's a thing. Put somebody against the wall is a firing squad. It's put somebody against a wall.
Right. But
that's
you know how you can say like I was backed up against a wall, no way to escape.
No, that's not what she means at all.
But that's what I think they're trying to claim. So I think they even did come out and say it was just a mistranslation. I just meant back them up against and back them into a corner.
No, I know. We all know what she meant because she's around communist people. And she goes to Davos and she basically tells everybody, you've got to listen to me. And this Daily article, Donald Trump versus Greta and the Prophets of Doom. We must reject the perennial prophets of doom and their predictions of the apocalypse, says Donald Trump at Davos. Gosh, what 17-year-old pigtailed school dropout could he possibly have meant by that? Earlier in the day, Greta Thunberg had delivered her usual cheery message of doom and gloom. Pretty much nothing has been done, she says to this globalist elite. That how does a 16-year-old end up at Davos? This is a PR. The guy was a PR guy.
Right.
You watched him. He walked here, and I just happened to see her minutes after she started her school strike. Oh well, you're striking. This is really striking to me. Let me take you under my wing. I'm a PR agent. How is that? What a coincidence, right? Extinction Rebellion hires the PR agent who and is working. Hey, I'm going to do this with Greta. You're my PR agent. Extinction Rebellion finds. I'm sure that her parents are part of Extinction Rebellion.
Yeah.
So, and everybody's like, and imagine you're the kid. We're going to make you, imagine they're coming to you. You're 15, you're 14 years old. You're going to save the planet.
Right.
You just got to be the face. You got to say these things. We're going to talk about them, And my parents already talked about it probably. Right. You can just see it all come together. President Trump wasn't having any of this apocalyptic nonsense, not one bit. This is not a time for pessimism. It's a time for optimism. Doom mongers like Greta, though he was too polite to name names, are, he said, the heirs of yesterday's foolish fortune tellers. And I have them, you have them, and we all have them, and they want to see us do badly, but we won't let that happen. Trump listed some of the doomsday predictions. These predictions, and I could even play the thing, they predicted an overpopulation crisis in the 60s, mass starvation in the 70s, and the end of oil in the 90s. Not only were these doom mongers wrong, he suggested, but they were also leftist control freaks. These alarmists always demand the same thing. Absolute power to dominate and transform and control every aspect of our lives. We will never let these radical socialists destroy our economy, wreck our country, or eradicate our liberty. America will always be strong, proud, unyielding, bastions of freedom. That is Trumpy. This was more than a bravura, I don't even know what that means, act of trolling in Davos. The belly of the beast, epicenter of globalism, political correctness, and the technocratic dictatorship that the Trump revolution has done so much to overthrow. Though obviously there was a trolling element too, especially in the bit where Trump completely wrong-footed all those people who would like to caricature him as a planet destroyer by announcing he was going to lead a global program to plant 1 trillion trees. Ha, gotcha. Ha, and everybody's like, that's bad. Good, bad, good, Trump, good, Trump. Okay, much more important. And why does he have to be the one to lead it? Why can't we all just plant some trees? Why does it have to be the government leading anything? Y'all, if every single one of us went and planted 10 trees, come on, we could do it. Much more importantly,
we've already
Trump.
planted.
I love Nigel.
Trees. That's what we do, though.
I love what Nigel. He's like, dude, we should plant some trees. Like, I never thought about it. Let's plant some trees. I love Nigel. He says it's so practical. Trump was doing what no other world leader had managed to do so clearly and firmly, speak up for Western industrial civilization. I hate industrial civilization, but let's plant some trees. Sure, they will all pay lip service to it, Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the rest, but Trump is one of the very few leaders in the world. Among the very few others are Brazil's Bolsonaro, Viktor Orban, India's Modi, and Prime Minister Morrison in Australia, who truly understands prosperity is based. And here's what he says: prosperity is based on growth, innovation, optimism. Optimism, yes, but no, you can't inevitably keep growing your economy. Okay, and this is where we end up. Here's the I get off the boat because y'all can't keep killing the environment. But I understand that the doom and gloom doesn't actually help, which is what we're going to talk about when we do our show on the Rogue Food Freedom Fest, which actually helps save the environment. We're going to get our clip of Thomas Massey out today, and possibly a clip of Jill Salatin out today. And then we're going to do a whole show of just these other little clips, and you're going to love it.
Yeah, it's so great. That's why I'm literally still like, if it seems inside, I'm so excited.
She's tired.
We left the house at the ungodly hour to get there.
Right.
Yesterday.
So you have the difference, and so I'm going to play a little clip here in things. Nigel Farage compares Trump and Prince Charles on climate change.
The whole 7-minute clip?
No, I'm just going to play a clip.
Boss, that really doesn't go along with that at all. Yeah, it's Donald Trump, and having given a big speech at Davos yesterday, well, he was up again today, saying things. And the big debate today, it wasn't just Trump, you see, who was the big guest appearer. The other one was a British member of the royal family. No, not Prince Harry, he's in Vancouver. It was Prince Charles. And interestingly, we've had Donald Trump talking about Greta Thunberg, and we've also had Prince Charles meeting Greta Thunberg. And what I want to do is let's have a listen to Trump's thoughts on Greta, on climate change, on the approach we should be taking to CO2 emissions, and then we'll have a listen to Prince Charles's approach. And I'm going to ask you, which of these two men do you think is getting our approach to this right? So let's listen to Trump at Davos today when asked his thoughts on climate change and Greta.
I think that some people they put it at a level that is, unrealistic to a point you can't live your lives. We want to have the cleanest water on Earth. We want to have the cleanest air on Earth. Our numbers, as you saw, we had record numbers come out very recently. Our numbers are very, very good. Our environmental numbers, our water numbers, our numbers on air are tremendous. We have to do something about other continents. We have to do something about other countries. When we're clean and beautiful and everything's good, but you have another continent where the fumes are rising at levels that you can't believe. I think Greta ought to focus on those places. But we are doing better right now than we've ever done in terms of cleanliness, in terms of numbers. We have a beautiful ocean called the Pacific Ocean, where thousands and thousands of tons of garbage flows toward us, and that's put there by other countries. So I think Greta has to start working on those other countries.
That was Trump on Greta. And let's just remind ourselves what Donald Trump said yesterday about the need for optimism in dealing with this issue.
This is not a time for pessimism. This is a time for optimism. Fear and doubt is not a good thought process, because this is a time for tremendous hope and joy and optimism and action. But to embrace the possibilities of tomorrow, we must reject the perennial prophets of doom and their predictions of the apocalypse. Today, I'm pleased to announce the United States will join 1 Trillion Trees initiative being launched here at the World Economic Forum. 1 trillion trees.
Well, that's something that I, as you know, on this show have been talking about for some time, and I was pleased about that. Now, today, Prince Charles was there, having met the great Greta. This is what he had to say about climate change. And bear in mind that he's a member of the royal family who was supposed to be apolitical.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the midst of a crisis that is now, I hope, well understood. Global warming, climate change, and the devastating loss of biodiversity are the greatest threats humanity has ever faced, and one largely of our own creation. It is time to level the playing field and to think about how we properly deploy taxes, policies and regulation in a way that catalyzes sustainable markets. Ladies and gentlemen, you all have a seat at the table, as this must be the year that we put ourselves on the right track. Everything I've tried to do and urge over the past 50 years has been done with our children and grandchildren in mind, because I did not want to be accused by them of doing nothing except prevaricate and deny the problem. Now, of course, they are accusing us of exactly that. So put yourselves in their position, ladies and gentlemen. We simply cannot waste any more time. The only limit is our willingness to act.
Very clever thing for Prince Charles to do. But I will park that to one side. But there are two clear approaches. Trump says be optimistic, we can make things better. We ought to focus on China. Is very much what Trump is saying. And Prince Charles is saying we must put taxes up and we really have to be very worried and very scared. Now, actually, in a sense, both of them are saying we have to do something. It's just a question they've got very different approaches. Now, when it comes to Prince Charles, I do have form because he came to the European Parliament 11 years ago and I was in the front row and I stood up when he came into the room. He then gave a speech saying that the European Union had to have more power, power to tax, power to limit CO2 emissions because the North Pole would have disappeared within 7 years. Well, it's 11 years on and it is still there, as far as I know. And I refused to stand at the end of Charles's speech, which led to a bit of a furore. But I refused to stand because I thought the future king was being too political. I wonder which approach is right. Who has got this right? Is Charles got it right with alarmism, or has Trump got it right with a degree of optimism and wanting to plant 1 trillion trees and asking China to look at its own problems? So we are talking about climate change. It is a hugely contentious issue. People care about it. What is the right approach? I have to say, if we really drill this down, since we've been talking about this in a huge way, and bear in mind in 1989, the UN put out their first 11 years to save the world message. But since 2010, when this has been at every gathering of world leaders, the main subject of discussion, since 2010, CO2 emissions across the world have gone up by 11%. And do bear this in mind. China's CO2 emissions last year were greater than America, the European Union, and Japan added together. And the real problem we've got here with, I'm going to put this to you in my view, the real problem we've got here with loss of habitat, destructive effects on biodiversity, and all of these problems with carbon emissions or whatever else you want to worry about in the world is simply because the global population is exploding. It's the biggest problem that we face.
So we disagree with Nigel there. That's not the problem. It isn't. China is the problem. And I'll tell you something really fascinating. We are, like Leah said, we're going to be releasing these videos today, hopefully with Joel Salatin. And I want you to know something about Prince Charles. Prince Charles has had multiple conversations with Joel Salatin asking him to help him replicate his sustainable farming on the large holdings that Prince Charles has. Prince Charles has a huge passion for farming, and the fact that he wants to move to sustainable farming, I can get behind 100%. And so what I would like to see is Prince Charles meet Donald Trump and come together with, I don't think that Donald Trump cares enough about sustainable farming, about small farms, and
but
that
if Prince
aspect.
Charles cared, he would break up his farms and he would have other people like owning them and farming them and encouraging them, not just him being this large landowner, like some sort of, it's a British elitism. This is where royalty gets you.
Well, obviously, I'm sure the little peon British people actually do the farming. Charles isn't out there. I mean,
well, sure, exactly. All right, so guys, comments, thoughts before we sign off?
Let's see. Oh, Britt Baza had wanted us to do the rock video, and I don't want to keep kicking that can down the road, but we are going to have to do that another day, and I'm really sorry. But it's okay because it's one of those things that you can look forward to, and we'll have.
We will do it.
We will be doing it. Maybe we'll do it on our celebratory Brexit Day. Who knows?
Yeah, why not?
Let's see. We had a lot of comments on Periscope today, so thank you guys for being there on Periscope. Ian says taxes ? Climate change is a money maker. They're ripping people off. I could not agree with you more on that. He says story 16255 says so citizens really believe this crud. Ian says, why don't we stop paying Prince Bonnie Charlie and give that money to the doomsayers if they really believe that trash called climate change? That's a very, very good question. Why Prince Charles doesn't really put his money where his mouth. He wants to talk about taxes, taxing the people, and putting into place tax breaks for these climate people.
And the British elite get to have everything new, brand new clothes, the nicest of everything. It's the peons that have caused the problem.
Right.
That's the elitist mindset.
Exactly. It's really, really sad. So
if there's any comments on YouTube?
No, the comments on YouTube sometimes just get off on personal conversations, and so I can't go back and read them all. Eric Kelly says more cows, more chicken, pigs, more farms. I agree with that. Firehorse says Google the agrarian revolution. Most Brits were kicked off the land into shanty towns that became industrial cities.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Britt Boz says Sir David Attenborough has been saying about the world population growing beyond sustainability. The world population was perfect at 3.5 billion on the planet. No. Here's the thing, guys. Our planet is humongous. The issue isn't
what we do with it.
And where we put the people.
And we can't sustain it if everybody has a car and everybody has an air conditioner and everybody's running around.
Right.
But like at the same time, like we have, like especially here in America, we put our kids in public school buildings. Everybody drives to work and drives back. You've got adults in daycares, and you don't have families living together.
Adults in daycares?
Yeah, senior citizens.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's life care.
And everybody is like, and so because we all live in these suburban areas and we consume so much, we are like locusts, okay? But it's put upon us. It's the Industrial Revolution. You can't have governments touting economic growth as the means for a healthy country and have a healthy country.
Right. Well, okay, so Britt Baza says, Michelle, what about the wildlife? They need space too. Here's the thing I need you guys to understand. It is a massive lie being peddled to you that there is not enough land in this world, and I'm not talking about Antarctica, okay? I'm talking about livable, habitable space. Okay, you guys live in the UK and it's really small there. I get that. But even within the UK, you guys have plenty of space for your people to expand and grow out and have land.
Humans actually can coexist with
the animals just fine.
But it's not going to happen.
When you plow down forests to put up a subdivision.
Right, exactly.
Why subdivisions? When each human has like 10 acres, which there are more than enough acres for each human to have a minimum of 10 acres. Mm-hmm. The wildlife can coexist on your land. You will have woods, you will have whatever is in your area, and the wildlife will be able to coexist with you.
Right.
The insanity is in the cities. When God put Adam in a garden, he made him a farmer. When Cain killed Abel and he was punished, he built cities.
Yeah.
Cities are of the devil, guys. I don't care if you live in one. We live in a suburb of one. It's evil. It's not God's design. I think every person could fit in Texas and have like an acre or something like that. I don't know the math, but I know it's ridiculous. There is plenty of land across this world.
It's how
we are not overpopulated.
So like in India, right? India is supposed to be like super overpopulated or whatever. Right now, as I showed you, Dr. Shiva has the people using not the mechanical, not planting the soy and the corn, but using regenerative planet healing properties. They're using bullocks, as they call them, oxen and cows, to plow the fields, and they are regenerating the now, if you want to live space age, too many people.
Right. You're
destroying the planet because too many people.
Right.
So that's why I say to people, you know, as Patriot Gallery points out all the time, we have to go back, we have to go back, we have to go back, we have to go back.
Russia's asking people to come, like giving them land, giving land away. Russia's huge.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, here in the United States, I think it was Kelly that just put in the chat here. I'd cut you off there, Leah. She says, we have national park, state land, and game land. Farmers have wild game on them. Okay, so yes, on the national parks thing, I get it from the standpoint of if we don't have the national parks, then they're going to get industrialized. I don't exactly agree with that, but that's a theory, okay, that people will infringe. But we have so much land that is illegally owned by the United States.
Like, especially, like, what is it,
We're
65 or
talking
70%
thousands and thousands
the
and
West
hundreds of thousands of acres here in the United States that's owned by the government, and it's unconstitutional for the federal government to own land.
What Russia did was offer everybody 5 acres if you would live it, work it, farm it. And
I love that. And that's why we kept saying Kansas for president, farms for everyone.
If you're going to have regulations, you can regulate GMOs. You can regulate the pesticides. You need to regulate commercial fertilizers. And if you get people off, I mean, we just met some farmers. Oh, we just have 2,000 acres. What do you need with 2,000 acres? That could support, you know, at least 200 families, 300 families. That's one family on 2,000 acres milking 1,500 cows 3 times a day. And
we have that story. It's an amazing story we're going to share with you guys.
And they're wanting to scale down. And so our brains are such in industrialization mode, and that is what we have to fight. And that's where I join hands with the lefties.
Yeah,
we have to fight industrialization. You have to have scaled down small businesses. There's got to, and I don't know how much regulation, government regulation I like, but it's got to be morally reprehensible to have industries.
But I don't even
giant corporations.
Listen, we talk about that, okay? But in all honesty, if we deregulate the individual, then they will rise up and overpower the corporations. What happens is we went to ours. I'm going to finish my sentence. We went to our township and we were told, and the guy bragged to us that he was going around and shutting down people operating businesses out of their own homes. I gotta stand up. I'm so angry about that. He was bragging about it.
To drive an hour to
work,
work,
makes like $100,000 a year.
More than that.
Okay, and he's bragging. He would rather.
We want people in Miami Township to drive an hour to work and drive an hour back
because we don't want people operating businesses out of their own homes.
What?
That is the insanity. If we just deregulate the individual,
yeah.
Well, it will solve half of the problems. It's
illegal to keep chickens here in Miami Township. Like, that's insane.
But it's not illegal. It's a
regulation.
Okay, which is not a law. We get confused about ordinances and regulations. They are not law, and they infringe on our 4th and 5th Amendment. So people wouldn't need to go to the
grocery store. They wouldn't need to make such a big footprint if people could just do things more in their own home.
Right.
And they were legally allowed to do things in their own home. The problem with not being able to own a gun is you can't raise and kill your own animals. Hello. That's insane. Oh, we don't need one in the UK. Well, then you're not raising enough animals. You're not a farmer. You need to have more farmers because y'all should be able to carry a weapon because you need to be able to hunt. You need to be able to
defend your farm from a coyote or a wild animal or something. I mean, the insanity is all in the regulations.
But here's why we hit gold and silver, guys. The Industrial Revolution didn't take off to the extent that it did until after
the fiat currency.
Because before you actually had to have cash on hand to make improvements to your business.
And now they can literally just add zeros to a bank account.
And so now anybody in the world, like in China's giving out $3 billion loans. And it's expanding and expanding, and they're strip mining things, and they're using all this steel and all this coal and all these different things that wouldn't need to be made. If you
all go back down to gold and silver.
God can regulate population. God can regulate everything. It's a natural cycle of life. But not if you have this endless source of counterfeit money, because that's how these corporations are built. If you're going to build a business, you got to do it honestly with money up front. Okay? Same thing with mortgages. You don't have these big McMansions if you don't have the ability to go to the bank. Like, I think this house was like $10,000 or $15,000
when it was built. Yeah.
And my uncle or my grandfather bought it with cash, and he borrowed it from my aunt, but my aunt had it.
Right.
My great aunt had it, and he borrowed it, and he bought a house with cash, and that was my grandfather did not use credit. So we have
he bought all of his kids' cars and paid cash for them.
He had all
and
this.
He wasn't a wealthy man.
No.
Lower middle class.
And he did not use credit. He was a disbeliever in credit. So you see, that's where you get this whole population boom coming from, because you see the industries, you see the just disgusting buildup of all the
It's
industries
the way
everywhere.
that we live, not the amount of people that are
Yeah,
living.
okay.
All right, so we're going to sign off on that happy note, which, like Leah said, we're really excited to bring you our interviews. Hopefully today we'll be uploading a couple of them.
We're taking it back. People are
taking
realizing.
back We'll be back here later this week for sure on Friday.
I'm going to give you one example. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So these young men that we're going to show you an interview of, they love their family farm. Their dad started out, and their great-grandfather.
Well, you can't tell the whole story.
No.
We have to sign
I'm
off.
getting one little clip. Started a small dairy farm and was able to raise a family on a small dairy farm with minimal ecological footprint. Actually healthy for the environment. Now it's 1,500 acres. They're realizing, the young boys or millennials are realizing, now we're not helping the environment, we're hurting it. And they sell their milk to Yoplait. Now, wait a minute. You don't need these giant factories of Yoplait yogurt.
You should be getting your yogurt from your local farmer
So
or making it yourself.
imagine we don't have a Yoplait yogurt, and there's literally probably like 200 versions of yogurt on the shelves. But really, if you were buying, even if you had your milk out, or if you were buying it from your local farmer, then you don't have the big trucks going back and forth. You don't have the big buildings being built. Mm-hmm. You don't have the flavorings come from local things, so you don't have the flavorings being trucked back and forth. And you're literally you can make yogurt at home. It's very simple. I do it all the time.
You make your yogurt, and then what I do is I take the jams that we've made, and I'll take like a tablespoon of our jam, and I mix it in, and all of a sudden you have yogurt that tastes better than from the store.
Maybe a plant to build things, let it be for things that you can do, like glass bottles.
Oh, hang on. We have an echo going.
You know what I mean? So let's have a glass bottle plant that it can encourage people. I'm building these glass bottles so these people can save the environment and can their own goods. Or I'm making the metal lids so that you can can your own goods. So if you're going to have some sort of smaller type industry, let it be to help people be self-reliant.
Right.
Like I have a grain mill. You know, there are people to make tools. But it should be to keep people like on a level playing field and not have 200 versions of yogurt on the shelves or 500 kinds of cheese, like processed cheese in factories. When local farmers, we get cheese from a local farmer. You can be making cheese, and that's why I encourage people to farm, and that's why I want a dairy cow, because then I can be making all the cheese that I want to make, and putting it on shelves. And so this is the wholesomeness. This is what we want to get back to. This is what we encourage it. We want you to have hope for the future, that it can change.
And you can just start with one thing. Somebody said something yesterday. Listen, if you grow a tomato on your porch or your balcony, you are a farmer.
Yeah.
Start there. That's it. We're not asking you guys to do all of these things that we do. We started with plants on our porch, on our balcony when we lived in an apartment. That is where we started. And now we do all of these things. But it was one thing added upon another thing, added upon another thing.
But
and we allow the Lord to lead us.
Because I'm using grow lights, or I have, a canned good here, there.
Start with where you're at and do what you can with what you have.
Allowing the Holy Spirit to lead you, and just kind of, let's scale back a little bit.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so we love you guys. God loves you. God bless. I did have the mail call, but we just ran way over on our show. I don't know what Mom's going to do with this big, long 2 hour and 45-minute show. But we love you guys. God loves you. God bless. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory if it's actually the truth. Please like, comment, and subscribe to Masfaith3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell for notifications. Find us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Patriot Gallery has new blogs that are coming out. I don't know if they're out yet or not, but you can find them on Isaiah58ministries.blogspot.com. I'm sure she'll be recording those soon too, so you can look forward to that. So we love you guys, and we will see you back here on Friday for our Brexit party.
Things that you don't hear at Davos, or you don't hear from Greta Thunberg. They're actual ways you can help the planet.
Right.
But you will hear.
All right. God bless, guys.
I was called